Welcome back. You're watching the Press Club. We're talking about independence, what it truly means for us. We were talking about the Voice editorial before we went to break. If I go to the last paragraph of that editorial, it says that we say boldly, whether it is St. Lucia, Dominica, or Antigua, that we ought to be doing better with the power that independence placed in our hands. In each of these poor little islands, there is need for new vision and a pooling of the intellect that resides there so that ideas can be harnessed and put to work for the benefit of the people. A fair assessment in your mind, I suspect?
A fair statement of a good wish. But the shenanigans of contemporary politics have resulted in where we are today.
Yeah, but would you really call it shenanigans or
the vagaries?
Yeah, I prefer that one.
The vagaries.
I prefer that one. And the editorial, I think, is a bit idealistic.
It's an expression of a wish. It's an expression of regret that we haven't been able to address these fundamental social, cultural, and historical issues, and pessimism that, you know, if we haven't been able to do that, how do we expect to do better? I beg to differ. I think that even though our generation, the exiting generation, even though that generation may not have had the capacity to understand and forge our path to independence in the way that it should have, it is not the fault of the electorate or the citizenry that the concept of independence was hijacked by the political directorate. The two major parties treated it like a political football. The British tended to be referees in that battle, and in the end decided to let go of us with 52 million pounds sterling and a constitution that we have had to revisit and revisit and revisit. And the problems all Britain has said to us after we sought independence is, you want it, look it, go ahead, see about yourself. And it tends to have the negative effect in places like Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Cayenne, that are French colonies, no matter what name you want to call them. They are French colonies in the Caribbean. And if you ask the average Martinican, Guadeloupean, and Guyanese from Cayenne, in terms of the locals, the Caribbean ones, you ask them about independence. Do they want independence from France? And the majority say no. They say no, and they point to St. Lucia, Dominica, etc., and say, listen, look at them. You know, the French, the metropolitan French, who want to maintain the colonial status quo. They point to the so-called failures of the independent English-speaking CARICOM states and say, is that where you want to go? And what you find now is that because we fought over independence and politicized it and caused an entire generation to grow up not knowing about it and not caring about it because their parents, you know, defied them from supporting or opposing depending on where the particular parents stood in relation to the two major parties. You find, on the one hand, we're being pointed to as having distorted what independence is supposed to be, and then you have the French are able to point to other territories and say independence is meaningless because although they're independent, they still have the problems, and the problems are worse. So we cannot continue to treat them like we're treating you. So that the British, in Montserrat, you will not get an independent vote. You will not get a vote. No government will win a vote for independence in Montserrat because Montserratians feel, you know, as a result of what they see around them, they have to remain British. And the French West Indian, Caribbean, French people born in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Cayenne continue to want to encourage their children to grow up and go to metropolitan France because that's where your future is. So you have a sort of a demographic shift in the French islands that is keeping independence down from the standpoint that the younger generation who may want to think of independence are encouraged to use the free entry into Europe to go up. So the vast majority of young people who are born in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Cayenne are heading to Europe. And you have a reverse situation where the elderly and the retired French people from France are encouraged to resettle in the French Caribbean because it's just a department of France. It's just an extension, an overseas department. So what you have is an assimilation that is happening there, where the young persons who would want to understand and demand independence get sucked up in metropolitan France. And the older French who want to preserve these islands and territories as tropical destinations for holidays and retirement will come. And when you look at the demographics in terms of the population of Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Cayenne, you find that over the last 20 to 25 to 40 years, there's been a decrease in the number of the lower population, of the local population, and a comparable increase in the metropolitan population. And all of that has resulted in a lowering of the influence of the parties in those respective territories that have been preaching independence.
But let's talk about the influence of parties and the younger people as far as St. Lucia is concerned. That is the topic of the Star headline story this week. Too many young people in crisis. ISIS is the answer. Rick Wayne
start recruiting for Daesh.
Touched on it during his show on Thursday. Referencing a caller to Andre Paul's show, What Makes Me Mad, who expressed frustration with the situation, the political, economic situation. And he said on the show, as he does in this paper, and I agree, that caller is expressing a sentiment and a view and a frustration that is felt by a lot of young people. I mean, as you move around, you hear it, from whether they want to vote or not, dissatisfaction with the government, with the opposition. There's a sense of hopelessness and frustration that you get from our young people. I've had the opportunity to engage a few of them, and it's interesting that you, on separate occasions, separate conversations with different individuals, you hear the same thing. There's no hope. They've given up. How do we address that situation as individuals, as a collective, as political parties, as a government, as a media?
I think we have to address it in all of those areas that you have identified, but I'll start at the top. Government. I received, and the best ideas, as you would know, come from the least expected areas. And I got a call on my talk show radio.
Which one?
Still at large. And the caller was saying, addressing the issue of the frustration and hopelessness of the youth, and asked the same question, what should be done? And I asked him, well, what does he have in mind? He said that's what he called to say. He would like to suggest that the Prime Minister and his cabinet take his cabinet on a round the island tour, no matter how long it's going to take, whether it's once per week, once per month, once per fortnight, but to go to every community with the entire cabinet and have town hall meetings where you invite young people, no holds barred. Come, let us discuss what needs to be done, what you think of us, what we think of you, where you think we've gone wrong.
But isn't that being done by the Vision Commission?
Where? Has the Vision Commission come to you to ask you anything? No, that's not what no, the Vision Commission might be looking at addressing national issues, like coming up, Qatar, the Emirates, United Arab Emirates,
Yeah, but
has appointed a minister of happiness. You know, I think the Vision Commission is looking at broader issues, total issues. I'm talking about youth, the particular the youth issue.
But wouldn't the youth factor in those discussions and meetings with the Vision Commission?
Yes, but the Vision Commission is not.
But you want a more focused.
Yeah, they are not the decision makers. You know, at the end of the day, the Vision Commission will make some recommendations, and the political directorate will either say yea or nay. You know, the Vision Commission's recommendations will not go in a referendum to people to ask them whether they agree. It's similar with the Constitution Commission. After all the hoopla, the Constitution Commission went back to, was sent to the very people it was supposed to cast to the dustbin of history. You know, so
Right,
dead
so
on arrival.
you're proposing that the cabinet
Yes,
go,
that the cabinet goes, let's say, goes to Grosley and says, listen, we're going to meet the youth from Grosley. It has been advertised. And the youth from Grosley, come with your problems. Come and tell us. You're not going to get arrested for telling us what you think. You can't come there and smoke weed and behave bad. But, you know, feel free. We're having a pre-discussion. Tell us what you think of us. Tell us where you think we've gone wrong. And the cabinet itself has to be prepared to do more listening than talking. Giving the young people an opportunity to come out and say, because they do not get that opportunity. The National Youth Council has annual debates, but that's once a year. And that's why I'm talking about continuity. You don't just have one conference where you tell all youth come up to Boseju, you know, and hear a speech. I think we need to take it the other way. Go to the and say, come and tell us what you think of us. And you will be surprised at the number of ideas that would be coming from young people.
Yeah, I want to give you an opportunity to expand on that idea a little bit, but we're due for a break. Let's take the break, and when we come back, we can hear some more about what you're proposing. This is the Press Club. We'll be right back after these messages.